Hey everyone, I'm Rocks, and welcome to the Little Intricacies, the show where we talk about your favorite pieces of pop culture and the small details that make them so great. Today we are talking about possibly the most controversial piece of pop culture of all time, Star Wars. Star Wars, through all of its flaws, manages to be one of my favorite pieces of media consistently. Maybe it's because of my nostalgia for stuff like the prequels or Lego Star Wars, which I enjoyed from a very young age, or maybe it's because, unlike other film students, I am far less critical of movies after I see them. Either way though, seeing any Star Wars media usually gets me pretty excited, but that doesn't really stand true for everyone. I have seen time and time again, a new Star Wars show or movie comes out, everyone gets excited, and when it finally comes out, a lot of people say it's bad, but a ton also say it's good. And then there's the people who may like it ironically, but there never seems to be anyone neutral. Star Wars breeds strong opinions from all corners. But there is one piece of Star Wars media that has managed to win over just about everyone. One thing that has parted the seas of Star Wars hate and praise and salt. And that is The Mandalorian. You've seen it, I've seen it, and if you haven't seen it, odds are that one of your best friends, or your mom, or your boyfriend, or someone else close to you has, and loves it. It's one of those rare internet moments of everyone coming together to rally behind one thing. I mean, how many times have you heard about how cute Baby Yoda is? I can tell you with 100% certainty that I've heard it about a billion times, yet I am still never sick of looking at this little thing waddle around. It has found itself a great niche in the Star Wars universe, and I am here for it. But the question remains, how did it become such a cultural phenomenon? Why is The Mandalorian the thing that unites the Star Wars fanbase? Well, I think it's safe to say that Jon Favreau knows exactly what he is doing with this world. This is the little intricacies of... Wait a second. If I'm going to do an episode on The Mandalorian, I need my own cute sidekick to make everyone care about how I think. Everyone, this is Lincoln. He'll be joining us today. How do you feel about that, buddy? And with that, this is the little intricacies of The Mandalorian's mainstream management. The Mandalorian does three really interesting things in order to divide itself from the main Star Wars universe. And to start, it breaks tradition. Throughout the three Star Wars trilogies, there's a bit of a constant formula. Follow a Jedi learning how to be a proper Jedi, they fight some form of the Sith, and by the end of it, one of the main characters switches allegiances and dramatically shifts the tide of battle. Typically, right before their death. And then there's a big celebration of the winning side. It's formulaic, but it gets the job done, making characters that people really enjoy. Even those who hate every movie that's not one of the original three typically has a favorite character from the newer ones. So, for The Mandalorian, how do they turn this on its head? First of all, it's no longer a movie, it's an 8-episode series. This allows for a more episodic nature, which works well when the story revolves around a bounty hunter. In fact, The Mandalorian follows that partially serialized nature I talked about last episode, where even though each episode has its own adventure with its own beginning, middle, and end, there is still a background plot happening and unfolding in each episode, however small it may seem. Also, a very big point to mention is that, unlike most of the movies, there's no Jedi here. Well, no proper Jedi at least. The Jedi are basically a myth to the Mando, a legend that gets thrown around amongst children. But this gives us a remarkably fresh perspective on the entire mythos. Of course, you and I know that Jedi are running amok in the Star Wars universe, being badasses, fighting dudes, having cool swords, but seeing a character who almost naively dismisses them as some schoolyard rumor is really interesting, especially when, this guy exists. It gives us a protagonist who not only is fundamentally different from anything we've seen, but also strongly dismissive of the epics we've been told to expect from this universe. It's a whole new perspective on the Star Wars universe, and a remarkably fresh one at that. So it sets itself apart by immediately dismissing all of the prior knowledge of the Star Wars universe, right? Well, yes, but actually no. Because while the Mandalorian himself doesn't necessarily believe in all that Jedi nonsense, it's clear that the showrunners do. Because while The Mandalorian may break tradition, the show itself celebrates all walks of Star Wars culture. I mean, battle droids, stormtroopers, Mandalorians, Life Day. You can tell that everyone behind the scenes here really loves their Star Wars. All of it. Hell, even the Force's healing powers that were supposedly shoehorned into The Rise of Skywalker started in this series. They actively include as many weird cameos, Easter eggs, and nods to as much of the Star Wars universe that they can. And it just shows us how much the creators love Star Wars. But the third thing it does to set itself apart ties back into the last two, and is arguably the biggest thing The Mandalorian does to set itself apart from the other Star Wars stories. And that is how it loves to reframe familiar aspects of the Star Wars series into completely new ideas. Like, we only ever met a few IG droids in the original series, and they didn't necessarily have a big personality to go alongside them, being mostly known as a series of killer robots. But come IG-11 in The Mandalorian, we get a wisecracking, sassy, and later oddly compassionate bounty hunting droid. The Jawa Sandcrawler thing was a huge deal in the toys for Star Wars, but in the actual series, it's not that important. But in The Mandalorian, it actually acts as a moving tank for our hero to try and take down. It gives us a whole new context to something that was paid very little attention to in the original trilogy. It makes complete sense that the Jawas, being a small, physically weaker species, would need a large vehicle to protect them, especially with Tusken Raiders about. I may be in the minority when I say this, but I always thought the AT-ST was super lame. It looks like a chicken, and it gets taken down fairly easily in each movie without really feeling like a threatening weapon of war at all. But seeing it in The Mandalorian bring havoc upon a village in the guise of darkness makes it oddly terrifying and frankly awesome. Not to mention, this entire series takes place in a mostly unexplored time, the one between Return of the Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, giving it an ample opportunity to have its own unique existence. And of course, I would be remiss to mention a very powerful, very adept Force user who has yet to come of age. So while he is powerful and can help save the day at any moment, his young age makes him unruly and never truly reliable in a situation of conflict. Also, the fact that the child is the same race as Yoda, a very elusive species in the Star Wars universe. They knew what they were doing. The way they morph these sometimes completely unnoteworthy ideas into new ideas is genius. This reframing of familiar Star Wars concepts in new ways helps get people who aren't invested in the story of The Mandalorian to start or keep watching, giving it a secondary connection to the Star Wars universe that people already have nostalgia for. In fact, this ties once again to that idea last episode of weaponizing nostalgia, making people want to watch the show in the first place. Star Wars is such a wide open universe, yet so much of it falls back down onto the same family, so it's nice to see a large focus of this new series be showing off the older, more forgotten stuff in a light in which they can truly shine. That is how they managed to unite the Star Wars fan bases. Whether you only like the original trilogy or you found love for all three trilogies in your heart, The Mandalorian has something for you. They add enough new for everything to feel fresh, reference enough old for fans to have something to feel familiar with, and with most of that old, they turn it on its head. Show it to you from the perspective of someone who can't just do a triple backflip and cut their problems in half. It's a genius way to make anyone who knows any Star Wars to love the series, and through all of that, it's just a genuinely nice story. It can feel a bit tropey at times, of course, but I think the perfect word to describe it is just nice. It has such good found family vibes, that's all I can say. Season 2 started just about a week ago now, so gather around with your found family and watch it. It's a good time from start to finish, and it does such a phenomenal job at making you care about its characters. And as The Mandalorian would say, that is the way. And the way to my heart is to subscribe to RV Rocks, like this video, and comment your favorite thing about The Mandalorian. If you enjoy these deep talks about what makes The Mandalorian so great, you should go watch Nando V Movies video on The Mandalorian's handling of the 3-act structure. I love that guy, and this one is a good deep dive without really diving all that deep at all. It sounds weird, but you'll see what I mean. But before you do any of that, I've been RV Rocks, and thank you so much for watching. Say it with me, little man. See ya!